Hello and welcome back to the Arrow After Show right here on thestream.tv. I'm your host, Jamie Philbrook, and we've got a great show for you tonight. I want to remind you before we begin that you can interact with us here on the show while we're in the midst of things. All you need to do is go to Twitter and use the hashtag ArrowAS, or just write a comment right here on the YouTube page you're watching us on. So before we begin, let me introduce my crew tonight. To my left, Louis Love.
Hello, everyone. This is Louis Love, like he said, so you're absolutely right.
Yes, yes.
And I love today's episode, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
We're going to talk about so much. And to my right is Ray Holdridge.
Hey, good to be back on the show. You can follow me on RayDallas67 on Twitter. Check me out at Ray Holdridge on Instagram. And I'm wearing glasses today because I'm tired of Mr. Love over here making me look less educated.
Oh, there you go. Now we got glasses.
It's like Clark Kent, man.
You guys are like Clark Kent. So let's begin today. We got a great episode to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Arrow Season 5, Episode 15, Fighting Fire with Fire. And we're going to start with the flashbacks tonight, which pick up where we left off last week with the Bravta. And we have Gregor and Anatoly going up against each other. And basically, they're going to kill Anatoly, but they give him, what was the word you were using, Ray?
Parlay.
A parlay, yes. A moment to get his affairs in order, and Oliver takes this time to then break in his old Season 1 Green Arrow suit. He breaks into Gregor's house, steals files from his computer that show that he's been stealing money from the Bravta, brings that information to the group at the Bravta that's deciding who's going to live and who's going to die, and then basically we have a standoff, shootout between the two Bravta groups before the end of the flashbacks. So I'll start with you, Ray. What'd you think of our Bravta Russia flashbacks tonight?
You know, I won't lie, it's a little bit of a lackluster, but I think it's kind of, I don't know what else you can do with that story in terms of their relationship. We know, okay, they're bros.
Yeah.
They're homies, and they're going through an awkward phase. It's like, it seems to me like they're just like, we're kind of throwing what's left out there. But even with that, I always enjoy seeing those characters on set, especially watching Oliver Queen with long hair. Makes him look like a rock star. That's cool. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty straightforward and kind of the weakest part of the episode, really, with the flashback.
I totally agree. I mean, I'm loving the Bravta Russia flashbacks this season. I think we like it a lot more than being on the island.
Right.
But that being said, you know, I think there's a full story they're playing out, and I think that this just happens to be one of those episodes where, you know, less of the Russia story is important to the episode as much as the Brooks of the episode itself. So I think we're going to eventually get there. We didn't have a Talia al Ghul. We didn't have anything like really exciting in the Russia stuff. But the relationship between Anatoly and Oliver is good enough for me. No Dolph Lundgren, but good enough for me.
I want Talia, man.
I'm with him. I thought it was okay, but it kind of like reiterates what we already know. The honor among the bad guys, the bro love. It's a little action sequence to kind of like divert us, like a little commercial between the awesomeness that this episode was, in my opinion.
Do you feel it dragged down the episode as a whole a bit?
No, because you had to stand up. You know, you
it was still exciting.
Yeah, it was still exciting, but you I kind of felt like, all right, guys, let's go on to the meat of the episode and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, right now, I'm a little bit over going to those type of flashbacks, but who knows? They may next week they may explode.
I mean, I think it's hit or miss. I remember we all loved the Bravta episode a few weeks ago. That obviously was because they were going to Russia and dealing with that. Like that really felt like those flashbacks were pertinent to that episode.
Yes, very connected. And I think with this one, and just this one in particular, it just kind of felt like we could have had this episode without the flashbacks. And yeah, there being no Talia, which I thought was going to be a much more prevalent character in the flashbacks. Yeah. And we kind of already know they don't die. Like we know that Oliver's going to survive this situation, and we know that that they're going to be around. Now, if something crazy happens, like something with the Lazarus Pit, I don't know. Maybe somebody does get brought back because Talia's involved. Okay, cool, awesome. It just seems to be dragging a little bit.
Well, and it's interesting because it does seem like the amount of time they spent in this episode in the flashbacks, I think you could have done that in 1 or 2 bits of flashback. I don't know if we need to spend a whole episode. Now, nothing was really resolved other than Oliver has now proved to Brofta that Gregor's bad. That's all that really happened in this flashback episode.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question to you guys? So,
Please.
Please,
Louis Love, ask a question.
Ask
us a question.
I was talking to a few fans, and they said, well, originally Oliver was surprised when he met Ra's al Ghul. So, but he had met Talia.
Right.
So going back to what he said, that we know they don't die, but maybe there's some other storyline that we don't know because the timeline's different now.
And as a fan, I also have to wonder, you know, we met Raz in season 3, we met Nyssa. Talia was never referenced, never mentioned. There was never ever. I mean, it's possible she could die between. But do you think Oliver would say, "Oh yeah, I know her sister. I know." You know what I mean? Or something. Or "Oh, I met your daughter, Raz." You know, or something like that. And I think they didn't know at that point that they would be introducing her in the future.
Okay, so now I'm gonna geek out.
Please.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Do you think now he could reintroduction of Ra's al Ghul maybe as a flashback, like oh, I know your daughter.
I mean, you could, but then he met him for the first time in season 3, so I don't know if you could like retcon that flashback if that would work.
I'm just geeking
It's
out.
interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting food for thought.
Yeah.
Right. No, I thought it's. Again, it is interesting. I want to see the connection with the Hand. Obviously, that's the League of Assassins, a big deal. The only reference to Talia was that one Legends of Tomorrow episode.
Right, which was way past season 3.
And that totally, because I thought they just deleted that character from the story. Because I just assumed, because he only, as far as I knew, he only had one daughter.
Right,
and then,
I thought she was sort of DC off limits.
Right, exactly. But then there she is in Childhood. Interesting.
And this episode was so good that the part we were like complaining most about, like the weakest part of the show, the flashback, is what we're talking about again.
Right, yeah. So, it was pretty good. Well, let's move on to our next point. So basically now in the present day, now that we've got the flashbacks out of the way, in the present day, we saw this beginning last week at the end of the episode, but Oliver is now Mayor Queen is being impeached. The impeachment process has begun because of his cover-up of the Billy Malone murder. And he has Adrian Chase step up, our DA, and defend him. And there's an interesting sort of bromance that's going on between Adrian and Oliver. And then towards the end of the episode, Oliver comes clean and basically realizes that in order to save his administration and save his chance at being mayor, that he has to give Green Arrow in a press conference the blame and says that I was covering up for Green Arrow because I thought he was the hero this city needs, and now I realize he's a murderer. So he really throws Green Arrow under the bus. So we're looking at the back half of the season where the city of Star City thinks Green Arrow is the villain. What do you think about that, Lou?
I think it was great, but I want to highlight that Adrian, the way he was acting in the beginning of the show, I was like, wow, that guy is so cool.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean, what a friend. I was like, wow, and it brought character development before the show continued. I was like, wow, Oliver has some really nice friends.
Well, how have you been feeling about, because I do feel they've been building up the Adrian Oliver friendship this season, and it sort of came to a cusp this season, this episode. How did you feel about laying that groundwork?
That is very important. And again, we talk about how TV is kicking butt against film. Why? Because you have hours upon hours to marinate it, like we marinate steak. You know what I mean?
We marinate steak.
And a barbecue, and then when we finally chew it, it's amazing. So that's why, man, I was like, man,
it's good. Ray, what do you think?
Yeah, with the press conference and talking about that, and Oliver deciding to really put the blame back on the Green Arrow, I think it's like, man, it's another. We're going back to Green Arrow being the villain again. I think it's an interesting take. I don't dislike it, certainly, because it's been a while since it's been like that. And I think that they even show that the reporters, everybody reacting like, wait, what are you saying? Because seems to be the Green Arrow is the hero of the city. And now I'm interested to see where is Oliver going to retire as the Green Arrow?
Right.
Is that again, like, is that his plan?
It almost seemed like they were going there, but then it seemed that because he gives this speech in the Arrow Cave to the rest of the group saying, you know, you've come a long way and you're my friends and you're great teammates and you're great team members. And so it kind of gave that feeling like, well, is Oliver saying like I'm done being the Green Arrow? But that didn't happen either.
No, but
so is it going to be interesting to see where they go the back half of the season? And I don't love the idea. Listen, I'm a hardcore Green Arrow fan. For that, I don't like my Green Arrow being a villain. I want my Green Arrow to be a hero.
Yeah.
So, but I'll give the producers a little leeway with this.
I wonder if it's also, too, kind of playing into Prometheus' hands. I mean, this is what Prometheus has wanted. He's acknowledged that you have failed this city. And this is that acknowledgement that the Green Arrow has failed the city. Now Oliver Queen is saying that. Now he's putting the highlight and blame on it. Is this what Prometheus wanted? Or is it not quite along those routes? And I love how it gets you to think that, and then the show takes a turn to kind of make you think about it even more.
But it's also a pain Oliver has to bear because he loves being the Green Arrow. He knows it's the right thing to do, but he also has to throw himself under the bus, kind of. And you could tell in the speech at the end, it was emotional. It makes him a sympathetic character. So as we're watching, we're like rooting for the hero because you could tell he's hurt.
Yeah.
He's hurt about it. He's not liking what he's doing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's kind of necessary, not
And
really
they
redundant.
left you hanging in that episode because you're right. They had a conversation, and I'm like, they kind of left that part. Is he going to continue? Is he going to continue?
We're
Is
gonna
he going
have
to decide to lay back?
to wait till next
yeah,
week.
it's very cool. I'm very
Well, I know there's something the three of us been chomping at the bit to talk about, so let's get right to it. Vigilante comes into this story, and basically he wants to take out Oliver Queen because of what, you know, the impeachment and Oliver's role in the Billy Malone ordeal. So Vigilante attacks the mayor's limousine. There's this great car flip, and Dinah comes, because Dinah now, as a police officer, is part of his security detail.
Yeah.
She comes out, uses the canary cry against Vigilante. Thea, in her street clothes, tries to fight Vigilante. And there's a very cool scene with Vigilante fighting them, but then Prometheus and Vigilante meet on a rooftop, and they have an incredible fight sequence. I know you love that, Lewis.
Yeah.
And then the big reveal, Prometheus takes off his mask, and it's Adrian Chase.
right.
Now, this is a big surprise to us watching the show. Also a surprise to comic book fans, because I think the entire season we've assumed that Adrian Chase is the Vigilante because Adrian Chase in the comic books is the Vigilante.
Yeah.
He ain't in the Arrowverse. Now he's Prometheus. We don't know who Vigilante is. In fact, we saw Prometheus throw Vigilante off a roof. I'm not sure if Vigilante lives or dies. That was unclear.
He
But
does.
Do we know
Yeah,
that he
sure.
dies? That
No,
we see a
he-
dead body at the bottom?
No, he lives.
The Vigilante lives.
Does
yeah, it's maybe
spoiler?
on Twitter someone will figure that out and let us know. It was unclear to me because we see him fall off the roof. Prometheus looks down
Yeah.
and we don't see anyone down there. We don't see
Yeah.
anything. So it was unclear to me. But that's a lot to chew on. That's a lot to take in. I'm going to start with you, Ray. What do we think about Prometheus is Adrian Chase?
It did trip me out.
Yeah.
It was a great turning because even as you're watching this episode, Jamie mentioned once as we were watching, he says, "Oh, Adrian even sounds like the Vigilante," like, you know. And I was like, "Oh, you're right, he totally does." And then no joke. A few scenes later, taking off the mask, and there's Adrian. And it's interesting because. And usually, Arrow, they're pretty on top of wanting to stick with some of the storybook guidelines. I mean,
Right.
even though it took a while, we're now getting to,
Dinah Drake
and
yeah.
everything. So I wonder, Dre 5DS he mentions, what if there's multiple Prometheuses? And that's an interesting idea, especially
good.
considering if Adrian Chase may not really be Adrian Claiborne.
Right, so
Or
that
is-
was
or I'm
another
sorry, or
thing.
is Adrian
Right, so
Claiborne.
that was another thing we were talking
Right.
before we started the show is Adrian Chase the son of the mother that,
Right.
whose husband Arrow killed in season 1 that we saw last week? And quite frankly, I don't know. I'm not sure. He could be, he might not be. I'm not sure if it even matters. What do you think, Lewis?
I think that our host here, Jamie, is an expert with this stuff, and nothing gets past him. And we're here watching this, and we're convinced Adrian is the Vigilante because he takes that piece of metal from Dana And we're like, dude, he doesn't want her to find out the truth. And we're like, yeah, the voice. And we're like, we got this. We wrote it down. We're like, we all got this, guys. And then the epic battle on the rooftop. It's like a clone. It's like they were clones in the martial arts. Boom, pa, pa, pa. Prometheus whips him.
Yep.
And then the camera takes off his mask. And we're like, oh, crap, they're going to reveal it. And the camera slowly turns. And it's Adrian. And we're like, I knew that.
Yeah. Well, I had been wondering for a while. I think what they did that was smart was that as a comic book fan, I never thought that Adrian was even a possibility to be Prometheus, because of course he's got to be Vigilante. But introducing both characters on the show at the same time as Prometheus, you know, at least kind of counted him out, you know, in a sense. And then in the last week, I was starting to think, well, who would make the most sense? Take the Vigilante part out of this. What character in the show makes the most sense to be revealed as Prometheus? And to me, Adrian Chase made the most sense. And I also wanted to ask you, Lewis, we were talking about before about that bonding that the two characters that we really saw in this episode. And of course, Oliver doesn't know yet that Adrian is Prometheus, but I feel like that bonding, that was really there to sort of set up the reveal.
Oh, yeah.
And the reveal was not the end of the episode, by the way. The reveal was midway through.
But it was definitely the climax of the episode.
Oh,
I feel like everything else, you're just like, oh, that's why he takes the piece from the Vigilante helmet so he can go and hunt down Vigilante and teach him a lesson, so to speak. And it's interesting because now these two opposing forces are both going after the same thing. They're both going after Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. And I personally, I always love when villains fight each other. I always think that's really cool. So seeing that or seeing those type of characters go up against each other is great. But it is, I was confused when Prometheus happened. I was thinking, okay, is it maybe the new police captain? Maybe he's or something like that. Like I'm going through my head. And when the Adrian thing happened, it was a turn, and I like where they're going with it. I think the setup of the friendship was very important.
Very important.
Very important, because now you see, oh, he's been laying the groundwork all to this moment. So when Oliver decides, I am going to put everything on the Green Arrow and say that he is the murderer, that makes me think even more. I mean, Adrian went up and gave him his resignation and said, hey, who are you going to blame? He asked him, who are you going to blame for this?
Right.
And he's choosing to blame the Green Arrow.
Well, it's interesting because now we can see how Adrian was sort of playing Oliver the whole time. If Adrian is Prometheus, then he's really been like moving the chess pieces the whole season, which is very impressive from a writing standpoint to see that they've laid that out. And I think it'll also be interesting as we go forward with the season to find out more about the real Adrian Chase. What are his motivations to being Prometheus? Why does he hate Oliver? Because the Adrian Chase we see seems to love Oliver, so why does he really hate Oliver? What are the motivations? What's behind this? And then my big question is, who's Vigilante?
Yeah.
If Adrian Chase is Prometheus, who's Vigilante? And you know, in the comics, Vigilante is a hero, maybe / anti-hero, but not a villain. So is that going to get kind of cleared up a little bit in the rest of the season? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, I'm going to be doing a lot of Google research tonight because
Wikipedia.
Guys, and I want something else I noticed during the battle. Oliver Arrow, he's a prize for these guys. They were like, he's mine, remember? I'm going to get him.
No, Prometheus and Vigilante.
Right. Yeah. So those guys, and also Adrian, or Prometheus, he was going for the kill with Oliver. He really hates this guy because he was like, I'll take the fall, or you could blame, what's his name? The cop.
Malone. Right. You could blame Billy Malone.
My thing is, he was going to reveal that if Oliver bit. That would have been worse.
No, I mean, he's been clearly been playing him the whole season.
This is low blow.
Oh, yeah.
Low blow. He does not like the...
No, and I think pretending to be Oliver's ally and his friend and get his confidence has been part of, obviously, Adrian Chase's, Prometheus's master plan. And you know, this reveal, I think, was so important to really cementing how good this season has been.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it. We have several more episodes to go, but they've really done such a good job. And you know, in past seasons where the villain has been the big complaint, and on other Arrowverse shows, the villain has always been, you know, has been a complaint on some of them. I don't think you can complain about this reveal and the whole Adrian Chase Prometheus thing. It's been pretty brilliant.
Another thing is a few fans were like, "Hey, I hope they don't wait till the end to reveal who he is."
Nope.
15th
episode 15.
Yeah, baby.
Right.
Episode 15. We're right into it.
And
Last thoughts, Ray.
last thing on that piece is like I have an idea of possibly Vigilante being Detective Malone, and him not really being dead. Just something. Something
Now
about
that's interesting, Ray
And
Holdridge.
I'm going to throw that out there, and one of the reasons being is that it was brought up again with Felicity. And Felicity saying, you know, is this about him? And there was something about that made me think, oh, is this going to matter even more now? Because what kind of a turn would it be for Felicity if here comes Malone back and he's the guy who's been hunting them down.
Right.
He's been dead this whole time and it's just this crazy twist on a woman who's already going to the dark
Well, it'll be interesting
side.
if we find out Prometheus and Vigilante were working together and were more involved than we thought. And from what we saw tonight, I mean, I know we saw them fight, but that's possible.
Well,
I think there was enough where I don't think it was very clear they were meeting for the first time or fighting for the first time.
But he did have to investigate him.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true too.
So he kind of like had a. They basically what they were Felicity was trying to do. He completed that investigation.
Dinah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, but she contacted Felicity. Like, I have something else. She contacted. So then he completed the investigation, obviously, and got a hold of him before our heroes
I think
did.
they could write around that in another episode.
Yeah.
They could write
Whatever
around
gets
that.
Felicity more airtime.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about Felicity
There you go.
because some big reveals with Felicity this week. So Felicity and Thea are both sort of in the aftermath of Oliver's anger at what happened to Susan Williams and the way that they pretty much ruined her career because she had figured out that Oliver's the Green Arrow. So as a course of that, you really have Felicity kind of figuring out what path she wants to walk. Is she walking the dark side? Is she walking the light side? And towards the end of the episode, she ends up deciding that she's going to join Helix. And I thought Diggle gave her a nice sort of pep talk. And then eventually we actually find out that Thea also decides to leave the mayor's office. So there's big aftermath with our two girls, with Thea and Felicity. Ray, what'd you think?
You know, I really am enjoying this treading to the dark side with Felicity. I think it's about time. I think if there's been any character who has been praised and has so much love for, but hasn't had the chance to really get into the nitty-gritty, you know, the real dirty. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see where that takes Felicity, because she's just owning it and she's just going for it in that. She thinks what she's doing is right, and I like seeing that because it could take her down some dark paths. And then with
Thea.
Thank you, Thea. With Thea, you know, I'm wondering if she's going to leave the show or something, because less and less this season, and I get it, there's a lot of characters.
I know the producers had spoken out recently that it was basically a episodes issue that she was only going to be on, she'd only signed on to be on so many episodes this season, so that's why she went away to a conference for a few weeks. You know, the character. So I don't know. I mean, I love Thea. I've loved her throughout this entire show. I think she's been in a lot of ways sort of the backbone for Oliver as part of the core. And really, she's the only family he has left. So that's important.
Right.
But I'm wondering if the characters, their time on the show is sort of done. If maybe we don't need Thea as a regular on the show all the time anymore, especially if she's not Speedy anymore. What do you think?
Maybe, but again, going back to what he said, these characters need to go. They cause a problem by going to the dark side. They're trying to fix issues using the dark side.
Right.
And then they're messing things up, and they're like, how do we fix what we did using the dark side? We'll use the dark side again.
Right. Well, we talked about sports, like Flash messing with time.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's a classic story, and it's a side story in Arrow, which that's why this show is so multi-dimensional and so great. And
John Diggle said something when he was giving his little pep talk to Felicity I wanted to mention, which I thought was really interesting, where he said that Felicity's superpower is empathy.
Right.
That while Roy, who I loved, Roy got a shout out, and Thea and Oliver and John have used violence to fix problems, her issue has always been, her superpower has been having empathy, and empathy for everyone, even when they give in to their own dark sides and don't have the empathy they need. So I thought that was really interesting to sort of pinpoint. Obviously, her superpower is the computers, but it's more than that. And I thought that really explained her role on the series.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's kind of obvious to see how important she's been in sort of the pillar. That thing that kind of pulls everybody back again, or you can compare it to, Oliver and their relationship. And even when Diggle started to go, like, it was still her saying, no, he can be saved. He's just upset and he's emotional. And Oliver, when he's all getting his, it's all me and pain. There was Felicity. So with all those seasons of that, that's what I think makes this so impactful when she does, I think, make that final push or turn or whatever the writers decide to do. There's going to be a lot of buildup for it, and it's going to be that much more impactful because of her history on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think?
And also, like him, I want to see more of her on the show because she's cute.
Felicity. Well, we love Felicity. We love Felicity. We love Thea. We love all of them. Do I see where you're going with it? Yeah, I see where you're going with it.
Do you see? This is kind of weird, but do you see a romantic connection between them two?
Between Thea and Felicity?
Yeah, the final.
No, I don't.
When
now Love's taking this in a whole different direction.
Done 2 shows in a row.
You're asking me? No, I don't see that. But you never know. Who knows where they're going to go in the future?
Reverse Unicorn might have been disappointed for missing that.
Oh, did she want that?
How
Reverse
much he
Unicorn
loves the ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Poor Reverse Unicorn.
So we'll talk about one more thing before we finish the show, and that is Curtis. Curtis had a pretty big episode in the subplot.
Yeah.
Now, what was really cool as a comic book fan, and I think fans of the Justice League animated cartoon might recognize this too, but Mr. Terrific finally got his T-Spears together, his tech weapons, which Wild Dog, of course, wants to call his metal balls. But they do actually come in very handy in the episode, in the story itself, when they have to, I don't know, do something with them, do some technical thing. And then, we've had this whole thing going on with him and Paul, his husband, and a possible, what's going on with their relationship. Paul does not like that Curtis is Mr. Terrific at night. And but Curtis thought that they were going to get back together when Paul wanted to meet for dinner. And of course, Paul hands him divorce papers.
Slow blow,
Yeah, low blow at the dinner too, man. Right? Couldn't you do it after the dinner?
Why don't you come and hang out with us? Super nice, gorgeous place.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and smash your heart.
Yeah.
That's cold.
You could at least let me have a couple of drinks before you give me the divorce papers. Lou, what'd you think?
Oliver always said, "Hey, you never get." The hero never has the right relationship. It's always a problem. So it's going to go, it makes sense.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Like, it's sort of paralleling what Oliver, like Curtis is now on his accession to being a hero, going through what Oliver, and discovering what Oliver discovered about being a hero.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of
really
like a throwback to that. See, I can make sense sometimes.
Yeah.
I swore, I really thought he was going to say something about the T-balls. I thought that's where this was going, but you didn't. And
right. No, he held back.
I like that they're giving him some. Again, we joked last week about the last episode.
What a bad fighter he was.
Pumped. He's just on the floor getting.
Well, I now wonder if maybe that was put in so that it would lead to this.
I think that's kind of what has been going this whole time when they acknowledge that this former Olympian is physically unable to protect himself. So he's doing what he needs to do, advancing his mind and making these tools, and that's great. I thought it was funny that, how are we going to find the Vigilante? With this magic laser that can find
that's what they were trying to do, was use the laser. The laser's going.
Okay, I get it. Technology is magic in these shows. I get it. But so that was like, all right.
Yeah,
but no, he throws them. They become weapons, defensive, and I like him getting in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
But if you notice, Wild Dog is the guy who's kind of like agreeing with us.
Well, I'm glad
It
you
is
brought that
silly.
up. I like that Wild Dog is a very bro relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really formed well this season, I think, and took some time. Wild Dog and Curtis kind of coming together, and they're nice. They're a nice team. They're a nice team.
You know, building up on that, guys, I want to ask you a question. So there
Yeah.
was that beautiful episode where we had the flashback, Wild Dog's flashback, and at the end, Curtis promises, "Hey, we're gonna find your daughter." Do you think?
Well, we have it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's still a thread hanging out
Yeah,
there.
okay.
And the last thing we want to mention before we go is that the episode ended with Adrian Chase threatening Susan Williams, who we know now that cares about Oliver and doesn't want to ruin him being the Green Arrow, and Oliver cares about her. So I'm wondering if that's going to lead into the next few episodes, and that maybe Adrian is going to use Susan, threaten her, or do something to her in some way to hurt Oliver. What do you think about that?
Adrian's
possibly?
been threatening people. He did ask Dana, "How's your family?" It was kind of like a,
Yeah.
you know, because we were already she was suspecting him. You know, because he was
Right.
like a little weird. I
Right.
got that out of that. At the scene where they all
Right.
got into the fight. So yeah, this guy Adrian, he's bad news, but we're gonna kick his ass.
Ray,
before
Adrian
real
Susan?
quick, they're making it obvious now. Adrian's a bad guy.
Right.
Even his
Yeah.
voice has changed
Right.
after the reveal. You know, he's really being a creeper now.
Yeah, he's a
coming
creeper.
at somebody in the middle of the night.
So
And
Susan,
with that-
watch out.
Watch out, Susan, and promising her the exclusive of life and death. And
Yeah.
that can go a lot of different ways. Maybe Billy's not dead. I'm just saying, just throwing that out
Billy's
there.
not dead. Hashtag Billy's
Hashtag
not
Billy's
dead.
not dead.
Well, boys, we're out of time.
Wait, really?
We had a great show. It was a lot of
Too
fun. I want to
much to
thank
talk about.
you for watching the Arrow After Show right here on the Stream.tv. Once again, I want to introduce my crew, Lewis Lowe.
Hey guys, you could catch me on Twitter at Nuke the Fridge, and also the next time I'll be here on the Stream.tv, it's for the Flash After Show.
All right, Flash After Show, Ray Holdridge.
Hey, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I promise next week we'll talk more about Dinah, because we didn't get a chance to. But you can find me on RayDallas67 at Twitter, and then Instagram. Just look for Ray Holdridge. I'm the brown guy.
Awesome, and we also want to remind you guys to please, please, please check out our Facebook pages. You can go to the DC TV Universe crew as well as the Arrow Cave, and we want to thank Lance Osfresser, who runs those sites for us. We appreciate it. Please check them out. And if you
Thank you,
enjoyed what you saw here tonight, please, please, please tell a friend, share this on Facebook, share this on Twitter, share this on YouTube. We want other people to see it so we can keep doing this every week. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. For the Arrow After Show at thestream.tv, I'm Jamie Philbrook. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
This is